Hello, everybody, and welcome. So happy to see you all here today. Welcome to the Strozzi Institute for Somatics question and answer session for our somatic coaching program that will be taking place in November of this year. And I am Denise Maes, and I am the Director of Enrollment. And it's such a pleasure to see you all here today. Would like to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Today we are going to be welcoming you all in a conversation where we will be answering your questions, sharing information about our somatic coaching program that will be taking place in Rome in November of this year. And really what we are going to be doing is sharing with you the arc of the program along with different parts of the program that will share a bit of practice. We're also going to be going into a question and answer session where we will be answering your specific questions about your curiosity about the program, methodology. We'll be following you. And so we are so happy to get started. What I would like to do is I would like to now introduce our teachers that will be part of the November Rome program that will be starting this year. It is my pleasure to also introduce, we have Pete Hamill. Welcome, Pete. Pete is a Strozzi Institute teacher, was also part of the program that we started actually in 2023. And then I'll let Pete tell you a little bit about himself here in a moment. And then also I'd like to introduce our other teacher, Stephanie Meux. And Stephanie is out of Northern California, out of the Bay Area, and is also a teacher in the US, and would like to welcome you both and pass it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Steph, do you want to go first or I?
Why don't you go first?
Cool. So hi, everybody. My name is Pete Hamill. As Denise said, I'm a senior teacher with Strozzi Institute. I've been working with Strozzi Institute since 2002. So for a few years now, and I live here in Europe, in England, in Brighton, which is on the south coast of England, but I'm originally Irish, and I lead a lot of the Strozzi Institute programs which run in Europe, and I'll be working on the somatic coaching program which starts in November in Rome. So hopefully we'll see each other there. Steph.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself in your day. I'm Stephanie Meux. I use she, her pronouns. And as Denise said, I currently live in California, in Santa Cruz, which is Owasso territory. And I'm a faculty teacher here at the Strozzi Institute. I've been working with them since 2018. I'm also a somatic bodywork licensed massage therapist. And really my background is in psychology, trauma healing, and experiential learning embodiment. One of my original teachers and modalities has been equine guided education and equine assisted psychotherapy, and have come to the Strozzi Institute in the last several years and so deeply appreciated the integration of social context, body work, transformational work in the domains of coaching and leadership, and really how do we take our healing journey and put that into action towards what we care about. And so excited to be part of the European launching of the somatic coaching certification program this year, and look forward to hopefully seeing as many of you as possible in the years to come. I'll hand it back to you, Denise.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Thank you, Steph. I'm trying to find myself on our is this where we will be talking about embodied transformation? Is this the part that you like? Wonderful. Sure. Thank you. So with that,
take the intro piece, and then I can go into the program, the coaching program.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I got a little lost there. So yes. So for all of us that may be new to our program or maybe not, I would like to share with you all that our foundational work is done in person with our embodied transformation course. And so for some of you, you may be familiar with that. If you've been along on our website, what you'll see is that this foundational work is what we build upon for the somatic coaching pathway. And wanted to share just a few brief details about what that program does. It's a 4-day program. And what it does is it introduces our methodology and really starting with self. And we will be talking a little bit more about the arc of the coaching pathway. However, for the somatic transformation for embodied transformation, what we do is we learn the foundational practices. We start and work on a declaration and really start on really connecting to our thinking, feeling, and sensing selves. And want to share with you that this foundational course is going to be offered 2 more times in Europe before the program starts. So the next program, I should say, will be September 13th. And that is going to be, it's going to be September 5th through 8th, and that's going to be in Rome. And Pete, confirm you'll be teaching that. Is that correct?
No, that will be Julio.
That'll be Julio. Thank you. So Julio will be teaching that one. And Julio is a teacher that also teaches with us in Europe and was also on the coaching program for our last session. And then there will be one other course that we're going to be offering, and that'll be in November, and that'll be in Barcelona. And so that course is it ends actually very close to the start of the somatic coaching program. So happy to answer questions on how that might work. If that's something that you're looking at, I could answer your questions later on how that might work for you. And so, yeah, so embodied transformation is the first start. It's the embodied yes that will determine if you want to continue on with the somatic coaching program. Really encourage folks to step into what that is. I'm happy to set up calls and answer any more questions about what embodied transformation is, and then also what the application process is for the somatic coaching program, which we'll get into a little bit later in the call. So the foundation starts with embodied transformation and embodied yes to move forward. So that is the first part, and I'll go ahead and transfer over to one of my colleagues here for the next part.
Great. I can go ahead and take us into a little bit of what's next. So as Denise said, the foundational course or introductory course for and prerequisite to get into the somatic coaching certification program is embodied transformation. Again, just to underscore, that really is an introduction to the methodology and practices and the arc of transformation, the somatic arc of transformation. And we hold that that in any transformation, we start with our current shape, and through practice, through increasing awareness, we get more familiar with really what our longings are, what we care about, and then we start to get into what's getting in the way of that. And again, we use our somatic practices and somatic processes to help work with those things that are getting in the way. In this methodology and lineage, we talk about them as conditioned tendencies. So we get familiar with what are those things, and we have ways that we work with, practice with, to soften those conditioned tendencies that don't just live on the level of thought or idea, but we hold that they live deep in our tissues, that our body is always responding to the world around us, the people around us, and that patterning to care of our 3 constitutive needs of safety, dignity, and belonging, our adaptive patterns really live deep in the tissues, in the ways that we move, to influence our narratives, our thoughts about ourselves and thoughts about the world. And so a big part of this methodology is unearthing and bringing more awareness to those patterns that some serve us and serve us towards what we want. And then others, we come to a point in our lives where we see that they're really getting in our way. So we find we have ways to work with those. And as we start to heal and open open, go through this process that we call somatic opening, the possibility of a new self, a new future, a new way to take action in alignment with what we care about starts to emerge. And again, we really lean into somatic practices and somatic processes to support that, we call it new shape, to take root for a long-term future so that we can take consistent action towards what we care about, even under the same old pressures. And really that's how we hold what somatic transformation is. And so, like with many things, we start with the self. How do we move through that process in our own life, identifying what we care about? And some of you on this call, through somatic transformation or processes that you've already been in, may have already discovered that I really want to include somatic transformation in my professional offer, either as a coach or a leader inside of an organization where you're coaching individuals. And so this program may be for you. And I want to take a couple of minutes just to describe how we integrate the arc of transformation inside of the curriculum. So essentially, in every program that has a 4-day module, including somatic embodied transformation, but when you come into the somatic coaching program, we have 4 in-person modules. In each in-person module, we go through a mini arc of transformation. We come in as a self, the current shape, and inevitably we'll work with our conditioned tendencies, we'll work with some version of a somatic opening and new practices for new shape. So we feel like that rhythm is inside each session and also the larger arc of the program. So the elements of the program, these 4 in-person modules, but we also offer mentor coaching. You'll do one-on-one mentor coaching. You'll do one-on-one video reviews with a mentor coach. We have 6 methodology calls that will give you all the foundations of this work so that you can start to embody for yourself, but also be able to articulate to your client and feel more from the inside of yourself rather than just an intellectual idea of the methodology, but deepen into what does this arc mean to you. So on those methodology calls, we'll be deepening in. We also offer 4 coach competency calls, which are giving you some building blocks of, and some of you may be coming in already as established coaches, and some of you will be brand new. And so those 4 calls articulate some of the International Coach Federation markers and competencies, and then also what we hold inside of the somatic coaching competencies. And then, of course, you'll have practice clients that you'll be working with. You'll be asked to take on 5 practice clients through a 10-session arc. And those will be the clients that you'll video and will be part of your conversation and learning with your mentor coach. And inside of all of that, you'll have this amazing cohort of individuals that will be going on the journey with you. And you'll have a buddy that you'll connect with that will help you be in accountability around practices throughout the process. And we really find that throughout these programs that the cohort itself becomes its own kind of synergistic learning body. So we're very excited about building community specifically in Europe. And I want to bow into Pete Hamill and how you've been holding center on developing these programs in Europe and really being a champion for this particular program to get there. So I feel very honored to be partnering with you and having the opportunity to come and teach and offer this work to as many of you who are longing for it. So I want to take a break there in terms of what are the components of the program. And as Denise said, later in the call, we'll get back into really how do you register, what are the processes of applying to the program. But we want to take you into some somatic practice now. And if you haven't already taken something from the Strozzi Institute, we always start with what we call opening practices or standard practices. And our foundational practice is centering. We recognize there's many different ways to center oneself, but in this lineage, we talk about centering as getting in touch with three physical dimensions and a fourth organizing principle. So length, top to bottom, top of our head, bottoms of our feet, width, depth, back to front, and then the center, this center of action, this center of longing. And so I'd like to invite us into practice. So wherever you find yourself, invite you either to remain seated, or if it's available to you, to come to standing. And Pete is going to, it looks like he's going to prepare to stand, perhaps. And I'm going to remain seated. And we also want to acknowledge that this practice can be done laying down as well. Great. And the first place we want to go is just shifting our attention here. This is such a powerful move, shifting one's attention from the thinking self. And I've given you lots of words to think about. And we're actually going to, on purpose, shift from all of those details about methodology and program and shift down into a sensing, feeling self. So just take the next breath or 3 or so and feel for what can I perceive in my body, and some of the places to look, these foundational building blocks of somatics, of pressure, like maybe perceiving the pressure of the weight of your feet on the ground, or if you're seated, you might be feeling how gravity is pulling to your sits bones and bringing you into deeper connection with the chair or couch that you're seated on. Pressure and temperature. So maybe perceiving where you might be cooler or warmer. And then perceiving movement. So movement can be, oh, I feel my heart beating, or can feel that inhale of my breath and the exhale, my chest goes down. Or I might feel a weightedness somewhere, or I might feel buzzing, streaming. So just get curious here of what can you sense in your body, really without trying to change anything, just getting curious about what's here now. We could also get curious on the level of mood or emotion, and in any way that feels available to you there, we're welcoming all of what we're perceiving. Like we're saying yes, even the maybe uncomfortable moods we say yes to. And then we're going to center ourselves on purpose in these 4 dimensions that I mentioned, starting with the physical dimension of length. So just sensing for yourself, can you feel from the top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet? And one way we can get in touch with length is we can place our hand, the hand on our belly center. So that might be an inch or 2 below the belly button. You can see Denise there and Pete, hand on the belly center. And we consider this the center of gravity of the physical body. Center of action, walking, moving forward in life. So just go ahead and drop your attention there behind your hand. And there can be a felt sense here when we drop our attention, almost like gravity is getting to have us just a little bit more. So we drop our attention down behind that hand. Maybe taking a breath down there. And then letting your attention and your awareness move all the way down your legs to your sits bones and to your feet. keeping that dropped attention, that dropped weight. Start to feel a gentle lifting up the spine, and you might explore a little bit, almost extending your head a little bit up, almost like someone's pulling a little string. Just feel what it's like, almost to get a little extra space, and then you can settle down into like, really, what's the length that's available to me here? And then you can drop your hand, but see if you can keep that dropped attention and feel for your full length. And in this work, we talk about length metaphorically as a place of dignity, where we sense and feel our dignity, where we're not shrinking or we're not overextending, but we're resting in our full length, our full contribution. And then let's shift without losing length. Let's shift our attention to width, the side to side. And if it is useful to you, you can extend your arms out to the side, maybe extend your finger. Feel that opening across the chest, taking more space for breath. And you might wiggle your fingers if your arms are still out there, or just soften your gaze so that you can open up your peripheral vision, really allowing yourself to unfurl into more width. And taking a breath there, what happens when you bring your attention and you on purpose soften into more width? So for many of us, as we're living, we can be contracting ourselves towards the center to protect ourselves or to get through something, muscle through the day, so we can contract in our width. And generally that has us feel less. So just exploring what it's like to soften, unfurl here in width. And then feeling for your depth. And that's the back to front of you. And let's start with our back body, because so much of our attention is forward. Certainly in this digital age, we're focused on our computers or our devices. So we're very forward thinking, forward attending. So just bringing some attention to back body. If you're seated, you might intentionally wiggle a little to feel your back on the pillow or the back of the chair. If you're standing, you can bring your shoulder blades together or clench your back or squeeze your butt cheeks. Just wake up the muscles along your back body and then relax. Relax those. And just notice, oh, I have a back body. There's a whole work here of sensation and information. And just see if you can keep feeling your back body, but also bring your attention to the inner landscape of your body. So that's all the organs, your heart pumping, your lungs, bringing attention perhaps to gut, digestion, feeling for your skeleton. Yeah, the density of the bones, the skeleton. Maybe taking a breath there. Okay, living on the inside of my skin, dropping the self inside here. And keeping that connection with the inner landscape and back, and extend your attention without leaving yourself there. See if you can extend your attention to the front body. So that might be really close in to like feeling the clothes on the, feeling temperature on your face. You notice I'm relaxing the muscles in my face a little bit more. Just resting in here to these three physical dimensions, like letting yourself reside inside your tissues. And then starting to feel for that fourth dimension, the organizing principle, which can be a fully formed declaration or commitment. If you've taken a course with us, you may have one. And if you don't, if you haven't taken a course with us, or you don't have a clear for what you care about or who you care about. Just feel how that organizes your attention, your mood. And then feel for here, do you have a sense of what you're doing on this earth walk? As Richard says, what are you doing here in this lifetime, this way of contributing, loving? Just let that organize you on the level of your tissues, maybe your mood. And when we say mood, we're talking about this kind of the intersection of emotion and sensation, like how you be right now. And I want to invite you, without abandoning yourself here, see if you can come towards the computer in a way where you're still connected. And let's just add our mood into the chat so we get a sense of this community that's here on the call. We're not just invisible people beaming in, but we're actually a community of folks who are in practice together, and we're checking in. So just taking a moment, if that's, I actually don't even know if that's technically possible on this webinar. So I may have led us astray, but perhaps someone can let me know. Otherwise, if that's not technically possible, just marking for yourself what your mood is. Okay, great. Yeah, feeling for each other there. So this is a fun somatic practice. How can we keep feeling for ourselves and everything that we've cultivated in practice, and then softly taking in the chat? It's like, oh, here are these other human beings that have been in practice. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for those of you who've, yeah, keep them coming in. We want to keep feeling for you. And then I'd love to hand it over to you, Pete, to take us into our next set of practices.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to do some practices, which are really a way for us to explore why be a somatic coach? Why is this of interest? Why would this serve you in terms of what you care about, what you're up to in the world, what's important to you? So we've got a number of things that we'll go through just in order to be able to do that. As we do this, my recommendation to you is to have like a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper by you, because you probably want to capture at various points, just capture some thoughts or reflections, because this is a deeply reflective practice that we're entering into. And I know often we fear losing those reflections. So it can be important just to capture in a note too. So just as starting off, I'm going to invite you to take on a shape. And it's a shape which is a very evocative shape. And it's the shape of longing. And the shape it tends to, as if you see a child with a parent, if you can imagine a child running towards the parent, they often are looking up and their arms are outstretched, and there's that sense of longing for the safety, the connection, the relationship that is transferred by that connection with a parent or a significant adult. And that's a shape of longing. It's the shape in which we allow ourselves to touch into and feel what longing might be for us. What is it that we long for? So very simple, this practice is going to be to take on this shape and for a moment, just to stay present to what is it you long for? What is it that you long for in relation to being a somatic coach? Or you may find that just bigger things come along, and that's fine too. That's absolutely fine if bigger things come along. But the question is really in terms of being a somatic coach, what is it that you long for? So let's just take a moment, find your center. You can do this either seated or standing. And allow yourself to find your center inside of yourself, to feel from that place. And then allow your hands to come up. Like you're reaching towards, like you're a child reaching towards the mother or father, object of love and affection and connection and safety. And really just ask yourself for a moment, what is it that you long for? What is it that you really, truly long for? And allow yourself to hold yourself in that shape for a period and just let what emerges emerge. And if you've answered that question inside of yourself, just ask yourself, what else? What else? And then let that go. And you might want to just take a moment and capture any notes, any reflections that came up for you before we continue to the next step. And then I'm going to invite you to take on a different shape. And this shape is a shape of extending towards a future. It's like there's a future that we want and we're extending towards it to reach for it. Just like if we're reaching for our water or our tea, just where we're sitting in front of our screens. Like we extend forward and we reach for something. And this is that move. But the question that is evoked is, what is the future that you're extending towards as a somatic coach? What is the future that you're extending towards as a somatic coach? So taking that shape, allowing your hands to come forward, like you're reaching for something. You're not rigid, you're not pushing or forcing for something. You're allowing yourself to extend, to reach out, like you would reach for a cup of tea or a glass of water. And allow yourself to feel for a moment. What is the future that you're extending towards? What is the impact that you want to make as a somatic coach? And once again, if you've finished answering that question, just ask yourself, what else? Just see if there's anything more. And then let that go and take a moment and capture anything you want to capture in notes. And then the next part of the practice is to move and allow your eyes to rest on something beautiful. And then as you do that, you know what, looking around the room, find something that you can connect with. Could be a photograph of a loved one, could be nature. Allow your eyes to rest on something beautiful. And then I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your chest, in your upper chest here, kind of around about your heart. And really allow yourself to feel from your heart. Feel your hand from the other side, if you like. Your hand from your heart. And then in this place, the question is, what needs to transform in me for the impact that I want to have? What needs to transform in me for the impact I want to have? And once again, if you find you've answered the question, just ask yourself, what else? And then you can let that go and capture anything you want to capture in your notes. And so I'd just like to open it up and hear from anybody about what that practice opened up for them, what it evoked or opened up for you, or any questions that the practice left you with. So if you'd like to say something, you put a hand up or just take yourself off mute. I'm good with that too.
Hi, I'll jump in.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Likewise, thank you. This was so powerful.
Mm.
And for me, what I long for me, what came up is freedom
Mm.
and freedom from all the conditioning. And I'm so aware of all the conditioning and the sociopolitical and all of that.
Yeah.
The mind knows it, but the body has held on
Yeah.
to its shape
Yeah.
for lifetime. And so that's the longing that I have for myself,
Mm.
and to bring it to first liberate myself and to be able to be a catalyst or an agent of change, of a container for others to do the same when they've tried everything and
Yeah.
nothing has really worked for
Yeah. Beautiful.
a long period of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's so often the case that certainly my experience, and I think Steph would probably share this, is that in this work we often find ourselves meeting people who have tried other things and have become very cognitively aware of their patterns. It's like they can tell you their story, they can tell you the patterns, the mind knows, and they can tell you all about what the mind has known and learned in the books and all of that. But there's a way in which in key moments they're still in those patterns and that they're unable to break out of those patterns. And I think that's the power of somatic work, is that we really move towards actually what it is to break out of those patterns and how they live inside of us. And that comes from understanding that they live as embodied patterns in our bodies rather than as cognitive ideas in our heads. It'd be so much easier if cognitive ideas were all it took to really change. I would love that, but unfortunately it's not true. Otherwise we could all just read a book and we'd be perfect. But yeah, so I think that's often what draws people to this work. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share what they noticed or ask a question about the practice?
I can share.
Yeah, thank you, Ulrike.
Hi. Yeah, I also found amazing how much came up through the practice for me. My longing was around expansion and really felt like this longing for a world of kindness, wonder, joy, and love and connectedness. And me, like feeling like everyone expanding out.
Yeah.
And then the question was towards my future, or what was it to shift towards the future? Yeah. So, or what came up for me was that how can I do this work, or how can I bring this work is first to or stay in my expansion that I sometimes feel, but often don't give myself permission to stay in there. And also something around dignity. So it was really clear that that it was my dignity line that I had to kind of work on.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Often I think in this work, one of the things I often say in introducing centering is that notion of dignity. If we don't hold ourselves with dignity, how can we expect other people to? It's almost like a It's one of the things that we can do that almost invites it off other people. But if we can't hold ourselves with dignity, it becomes harder for other people to do so. So there's something really wonderful about paying attention to dignity and how we hold ourselves. And then that sense of expansion and width that you were describing for me is often about visibility. How do we allow ourselves to be visible, to take up space, to be seen? And we probably, many of us will have experiences whereby in our histories being seen hasn't always been safe or hasn't always brought us connection and belonging with other people. And so one of the key things is like, how do we allow for ourselves to show up in our dignity and really be seen and be visible in the world? That starts to become part of what you're articulating there. And a world where we can all do that is probably a more fun world. You know, it's a world where we can kind of play together in a more different way. Yeah. What's your reflection as I say that?
Yeah, no, it resonates a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or noticings? What did you notice in your body as we went through the practice?
Hi.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, we have two there. So Neha, I think you got there fractionally ahead.
Hello, everyone. Well, my longing that as I went through this, which was, it was such a beautiful practice, because I was coming into this feeling very disconnected from myself these last few weeks. So just this short one was such a powerful reminder of what can be and where I was, and
Yeah.
that invitation to come back. And so for me, the longing that really came out was overcoming self-doubt as a practice, not eliminating, but overcoming it. And my, as we were doing that motion of trying to grasp what was in front of us, my body organically, I went to this motion of turning down the volume of other people's opinions and other people's thoughts and turning up the volume of my intuition. And it was such an organic thing that came out of that. And it really stood out to me as what can just emerge for each person at any given point while you are prompting for something. When we're in that open space, what needs to emerge can emerge. And our work as coaches and as practitioners is to like open that space and be in that space. And that's what we can do.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah,
it was
you're
really
welcome.
powerful, like embodied experience just for those few minutes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
So I'm curious, this kind of turning up and turning down came out organically. How did you do that? Do you have a sense of what did you do in order to create that impact for yourself?
I was just, when you were asking, like, what are you longing for? And this self-confidence and self-doubt, like, those are just things that I've always just struggled with. And what other people think, right? And it just came up when I was like imagining the impact I want to have. Like, okay, from when you asked what needs to transform in me, that just came up like right there of like, I need to reduce other people's voices, the volume in my head and my body. And then I need to turn up my intuition, my soft intuition whisper, and turn that up. And it was that like inside out prompt that you had of like feeling your hand from your heart. that kind of allowed me to tap into that. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of how you can do that? How can you turn it up and turn it down?
I think my focus needs to be on turning up my intuition, and then perhaps the turning down will happen on its own.
Nice.
Instead of focusing on turning down, focusing on where I want to create that impact instead of turning it up. So, honing in on that whisper and almost putting blinders on of like, here's me. And like, to me, that seems like where I can have the most control, so to speak.
Where does the whisper live in you? Where do you notice? Where do you have to pay attention to hear the whisper?
I think my heart space.
Yeah.
The center of my heart, like my chest, the center.
Where do you pay attention to hear the other's voices?
It ends up being very visual, eyes, almost like ego eyes, like everything I can see and hear, and the senses.
Yeah.
Very outward focused, which are like the five senses.
Yeah. So this is part of what we do in somatic coaching, is we want to take everything down to very practical things that we can do inside of ourselves. So we can switch where our attention is, where our attention lives. We can pay attention to our head and our eyes and our sense of what's out there and how are they all judging me. Or I can bring my attention inside and pay attention to my heart. And that becomes very practical and operational. Like I can do that as I'm walking down the street or queuing in a grocery store or whatever. That's a very practical thing that I can do. So part of what we always move towards in somatic coaching is, how do we move towards something that's very practical and operational? Like, oh, I can practice that. Like every day when I'm walking to and from work, or when I'm picking up something at the grocery store or picking up my kids from kindergarten, I can practice being in that mode, or I can practice being in the other mode. And so I can start to pay attention and have that as something that I can practice and bring into my life in a greater way. So thank you for being willing to play with me a little bit. You probably weren't expecting so many questions. So thank you for your patience with that. But it is a really important point of, how do we move towards something that's really concrete that we can actually work with?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let me see, Bettina, I think it was, you had, we're coming off there a moment ago, but we come back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you asked, what did you ask? What the effect was. So, I mean, the point is that just doing those movements was very energetic, although they were simple. So, for example, with the reaching out, I immediately had the sense of, oh, actually, I'm trying to grip onto something to get me out of a situation. It's not just a reaching out. I was really trying something that I can, it was a grip. So that actually, just doing this movement or being in this energy basically realized, okay, I do have a stronger intention here than just kind of exploring something new. So a stronger need to get out of a situation. I thought that was very interesting. And the same was true in just holding up. It's such a movement that is so emotional, physical, so I had immediately a lot of energy in my hands, which then obviously got me out of the thinking mind, or some other elements came into my thinking mind. So I think that's a stronger connection to self by doing just very simple body embodiment of something. I ended up being on a different track.
Yeah, interesting. And what impact do you think that has for you, just having done that?
Well, there's stuff I need to reflect on more, because I think I had a little bit of difficulty, you know, in the beginning, the longing to connect it to the somatic coach. Or stuff came up where I believe, okay, is that now connected to the, you know, it was so intense and there. And then I tried to connect it to the coach, and I realized this is somehow contradictory. So I need to, so it came up, the longing for community. I was like, okay, but that is not somehow when you're doing a coach and one-on-one session, that's not really a community you have there. It's so, but I had really, it took me long to get out of that. And then kind of say, okay, what's this? So I felt like I had to pull myself into the thinking mind again. But I do feel, okay, then I need to check what is there, what connection do I want, or what community do I want, and maybe there is a community, and maybe I want to get out of the community I'm in now.
Yeah. I'm just brought in mind of the notion of finding your tribe.
Yeah, you know, this is a different community now, for example, already. So just being in that zone, or for instance, doing the training, for example, could then open up a different kind of community that currently is not so much there.
Yeah. That longing, that hunger is very very common in our world, I think, at the moment. How did you experience that longing inside of you? Did you notice it in your body?
I said it was really to get a feeling of, like, to get energy flowing from my hands into my body. That was this longing, something nurturing, something to create flow that flows through me. That was there.
Yeah, nice. So part of what we always, in this work, what we always want to try to pay attention to is, what do we notice inside of the tissues? And to trust in the intelligence of the life that is moving through our tissues, and that it's telling us something. So I would encourage you to stay with that kind of sense of what you were longing for, rather than going into your head and trying to generate something, but stay with it for a bit longer. Allow yourself to feel inside of those bits of your tissue, and stay with that sensation, and let that sensation guide you for a little bit.
Thank you.
Working it out in our heads doesn't always give us what we're looking for. Thank you, Bettina. Appreciate you. Okay, well, I'm going to hand back now to, oh no, I'm not actually. What I'm going to do now is open it up for question and answers, Q&A regarding the program, regarding the coaching program. And maybe myself, or maybe be Stephanie, or maybe Denise, who actually answers those questions. But we want to give you a chance to ask questions about the program. For Stephanie and myself, it's probably more regarding the methodology, the kind of the nature of the program, that kind of stuff. Whereas for Denise, it might be more logistics and practical stuff, including things like the embodied transformation program she mentioned earlier. So yeah, let's just open it up and have some space to hear what questions you might have regarding the program, and we'll do our best to answer them. So any questions?
You can also place your questions in the chat, and we'll be checking.
Yeah. Lisa.
Hello. So I'm not quite sure who I should be asking this. It's more of a practical question about the certification of the coaching program itself. I've read through most of the information online and the details. And the only thing that's not clear for me is it says that for the European cohort, the final assessment for ICF is not included in the EU program tuition. So I just wanted to understand what that meant exactly. Thank you.
Do you want me to take that, Denise? Yeah. Great. Thanks for your question, Lisa. So the entire curriculum and program is accredited by the International Coach Federation, and we're teaching all of the same curriculum. What we did in this first go round in Europe is that we understand that in Europe, not everybody is necessarily interested in getting their ICF accreditation. They might be drawn to another accrediting body. And so if you are interested in getting your ICF certification, we can support you in that. And essentially you would pay $350 to have a video, a practice client video assessed based on the ICF markers. And that's just an additional cost. So it allowed us, by making that move, it allowed us to make the overall cost of the program a little more affordable, but it's certainly a possibility if that's something that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. I haven't looked into the requirements. I'm already a coach, but I haven't looked into the requirements to join ICF. So I was just wondering, is submitting a video part of the requirement? Is that why you offer this option?
Yeah, so if you wanted to get certified by the International Coach Federation, essentially you take our program, you would pay this additional money to have one of our assessors assess the video, and then we would send you a certificate that said that you've passed at either an ACC, associate level coaching level for the ICF, or a PCC, professional coach level. And you would submit that directly to the International Coach Federation online, and then they have a test, an online test. You can also do a proctored in-person test, and just get that additional certification. Given that you're already a coach, you may be able to submit in other ways, and we can certainly consult with you if that's something that you're interested in talking about further.
Okay, but at least with that information, I can check on my side and get the missing information for myself, for my particular situation. Thank you very much. May I ask just one more question? I'm wondering how, this is the first cohort you're doing in Europe, if I understand correctly?
Actually, the second. We had our inaugural cohort this last year. And so this will be our second. We're very excited.
Okay. And so what size of a group are you expecting, or do you have a limit on the size of the group, for example?
I'll hand that over to you, Denise, because I actually don't know what the current standard is.
Yes, thank you. So yes, we are looking at having the program be anywhere between 25 and 28 participants. Our first inaugural course, we did have it a little bit more to get the first group in. But really that's the optimal size is between 25 and 28. And then of course, you also have teachers and also others that will be in the course with you that support the course. So it's a nice sized group. And so it's going to be about 28 would be the maximum for that. And Lisa, I'd also like to add on to what Stephanie had mentioned is that I think this is implied, however, that the somatic coaching program is a dual certification. So it's a certification in somatic coaching that is assessed and certified by the Strozzi Institute, and then the ICF as well. So they're taught in an integrated way. And so really the only difference is during the assessment process. So one is a somatic coaching assessment, and then one is the ICF. So we all learn it together. ICF and all of those competencies are all learned together collectively. And then the assessment process is what's separate. So wanted to emphasize that if that wasn't specifically what you might have read, but that's a really important part of what it is. So that's helpful. Yeah.
Super. Thank you very much.
Denise, do you want to speak to Erica's question here? I mean, I'm also happy to chime in, but about additional cost and where to stay.
Yes, happy to. So thank you, Erica. Seeing your question here about expenses and budget, very important part of the planning process. And so the program is held in Rome at a venue that does have on-site. You can stay on site there. However, it's not large enough to accommodate the whole cohort. So for those that are interested in staying on at am I saying this right? The Borgo? Is that how I'm saying? Is that Borgo? The Borgo, and thank you, in Rome. You can stay on site there, and that is an additional cost. So the cost of travel and accommodations and all of that is not included in the cost of tuition. So the option would be to stay at the Borgo or to stay at a site close by, which our partners that are helping us organize this are finding places where we could do a little bit of work where we could be doing some transportation. So everybody, if they stay in the same area, we could have some shuttling and coming in that way. So those are two ways to look at that. And we're also looking at possibly finding other kinds of hotels or places nearby that would also want to work with us in terms of price. So that's still something that's being worked upon with our partner, which is the We Plus network in Rome. And let's see here, what materials and or other costs? So there are no other costs other than hotel and travel and lodging. But I do want to mention that if you do want to go the ICF route, as we just explained, there is that extra cost for the assessment. Also through ICF, there is a cost for the exam and there's a cost for registering and being certified through ICF. So those are those extra fees there.
And Denise,
and you know what?
I have an ad in here.
Yes.
Actually are two potential costs. One is that we Zoom, most of us have some version of a Zoom platform and have access. And many people see some of their clients over Zoom. So there could be a Zoom cost that you would incur. And then we use a platform called Ray Notes to upload videos that are reviewed by the mentor coach. It allows us also to assess based on competencies. And there's a small fee. I think it's free to sign up for Ray Notes, but when you have your video transcribed, there's a nominal cost to transcribe. So we do want to make that apparent to students as well.
Thank you, Stephan. You know what? I just thought of another nominal cost as well, is we do ask folks to read books, and sometimes we can, send the text and it's part of our learning management system. However, sometimes we might suggest there's, read this book, watch this video, and there might be some nominal costs to that as well. So those are the costs that are involved in addition to the tuition, the standard tuition.
Great. And then I see this question here from you, Brandon, about the scope of what we're teaching here. We're in this certification program, we're certifying you to work one-on-one with individuals or groups no more than 6. So it would be like a coaching circle. We're not teaching, this program isn't designed to teach you how to teach this work, and any groups larger than 6 people. If you're interested in that, you want to teach us, we have another program called Train the Trainer, and certainly you can talk to Denise about that, but we do want to be clear about the scope of this training. Hopefully that answers your question, Brandon. And I've seen Susan.
There's a hand. Oh. Yeah.
Yes. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, it's more about the methodologies and the different methodologies. And I'm just curious about the 4 4-day modules that we're doing. Are we going to be learning different methodologies within the mini arcs, or are they practicing the same set of methodologies?
Yes, you will be focused on the foundational components of our methodology, which we could loosely say is comprised of the somatic arc of transformation. And then there's another diagram or way we think about our methodology has these 3 circles, this Venn diagram, and then also sites of shaping, sites of change. They illustrate in these beautiful posters, but really illustrate the components of this work. So you'll be totally focused on and integrated in the 4 days is those components of the methodology. What will happen inside of each module is that you'll learn all of our standard practices and how to facilitate those for your clients. You'll learn a handful of somatic processes, which include hands-on somatic body work, which is an integrated part of this lineage and methodology. So in terms of following the arc in each 4-day module, we arrive, and even though we'll be doing different things on different days, there's a felt sense of when we're together in person, we start with our current shape. And then through our learning together, we will be touching into places energetically, emotionally in our bodies that get in the way of our learning. And then there's inevitably some sort of opening that happens. And then we complete on the 4th day, we integrate and complete. So there's sort of this behind the what we're learning energetically as human beings, we're moving through that cycle. And so I like to, invite that into our learning bodies, that when we're together in person, we go through these cycles. It's like the cycles in nature or rhythm of excitement. We talk about it in this lineage. And then there's the what we learn. So you'll be learning very tangible things so that you can then take that to your clients. You'll be learning about coaching competencies. You'll have the opportunity to coach one another. You'll see demos from us as teachers. So there's kind of the what we're doing and the content of the curriculum, and then the rhythm of how we be together is embedded in each 4-day module. Is that useful?
Yeah, very, very useful. Very useful. I guess also what I'm thinking is, do we learn new material every time we come for those 4-day sessions, or is it just application? And of course, the energy of the moment, that's the magic where the change happens. But I'm just wondering, in terms of material, do we learn new material on site, or is it more practice and application?
I would say it's like this spiraling up. It's the same, in some ways, it's the same methodology, same practices, but we're deepening each time. So in order to get something really embodied where it emerges from us under any kinds of condition or pressure, we say we have to practice it many times. There's a certain amount of practice to get something in muscle memory, like, oh, okay, kind of know the nuts and bolts of, say, a practice or a process. And then there's a real deepening of like, how can I be inside of this practice, inside of myself, that's going to transform me, but then be able to offer it to another person that evokes transformation. And that takes repetition. So in that way, each time we're together, there's like a foundation of practices and processes that we do. And then each time we're going to add a layer of like, how do we get this deeper and deeper, so that, we have to have it inside of ourselves to be able to invite it into our clients. Yeah. Does that get
Yeah.
it?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. And I have 2 other questions. Will we have online lessons, or will we be meeting, communing, and just practicing when we're not physically together?
Yes, we'll come together for these 4-day modules over the course of the 8-9 months. And then in between, we'll have these methodology calls, which will be part teaching and part interactive and breakout rooms. You'll get to interact with each other, the participants in the group. These coach competency calls, we'll have the one-to-one mentor coaching. And inside mentor coaching, you'll also have 4 small group mentor coaching calls. So another way of learning, but also practice coaching with one another in those calls. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be assigned to a buddy that you'll both be checking in on. Are you doing your somatic practices or not? And then with your buddy, you'll also be assigned to do some Zoom calls with one another where you're practicing certain things. So there's a lot of holding and continued learning and integration in between sessions. Yeah, so it's a very full holding. And then once we complete the in-person sessions, there's continued support from your mentor coaches that supports you until the point of submitting your final video.
Okay, great. Thank you. You answered all my questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
There's a couple there in chat from Lisa. The first one is, what's the role the martial arts play in the overall body-based practices of the program? And then the second one was around the how many hours between the sessions. So if I take the first one, and then I don't know, Denise maybe the second one. So martial arts is one of the influences of this work. And it comes through Richard Strozzi Heckler, who founded Strozzi Institute and is a lifetime martial artist. His primary martial art is Aikido, which he is, I think, 7th or 8th Dan black belt. And so there are appropriations, I suppose, or there are ways in which we draw from that tradition inside of this work. And we don't teach anybody how to throw someone down or kind of, do any martial arts in that kind of sense. So it is drawing from the principles of martial arts, which essentially are whenever something is coming at you, or whenever there's a lot of stuff happening, how do you stay centered and calm and make choices? Those kind of core principles, which are within the martial arts, are very much embedded in the work and in the coaching process, but not necessarily the practices of the martial arts. We kind of we use carefully and with permission, we draw on the principles of the martial arts, but we're not necessarily teaching anybody how to be a martial artist. So that distinction, I think, is really important. What else? Was something else I was going to say on that? It's gone. Stephanie, do you want to add to that? There's something else that's just disappeared out of my head.
I think that covers it. I mean, many of the influences inside this lineage, as Pete said, comes from Aikido. Many of the practices that we do as standard practices, we call them standing practices. Really, they can be done in any configuration, but they come from those, come from the moves of Aikido, which is how can we work with energy in a way that becomes generative. And the form of Aikido is really a peace-based martial art. How can you take incoming energy and create a generative outcome? So those structures and practices are certainly embedded or woven into what you all will be learning.
And Denise, the time between sessions, you might have a better sense of that.
Absolutely, thank you. So yes, so in between our in-person sessions, as Stephanie had mentioned, there will be calls. So there are several kinds of calls that you'll have. Those are about 90 minutes, an hour to 90 minutes, along with your mentor coaching calls. And so, and then in addition to that, you'll be starting to work with practice clients. So you'll have, also some homework, like read this chapter, watch this video, write this paper. They're really minimal and nominal, especially if you might be comparing this to maybe an advanced degree or things like that. It's nothing like that kind of homework or assignment. And so generally, I recommend about 10 hours a month between sessions. So as you move through the program, you'll be meeting more and more with practice clients. And so more of that time might be spent with your practice clients. And what I also suggest is that it really depends on you. If you are, really extending toward getting certified sooner than later, then you'll be meeting with more practice clients. So that would be to you, up to you to decide, oh, I'm going to spend this much time this month getting all of this done for this timeline by when. So it is, but generally 10 hours is what I suggest that you really imagine what you'd be doing. And then there'll be, definitely squeezes on time later on. And then once we go into the certification process, which is after you've completed your 4th session, is where that focus will be, working with your mentor coach, moving toward the certification and meeting that deadline, which is a 6-month window. So once we complete our 4th in-person session, then we have 6 months to complete to certify with their somatic coaching portion, our assessment and certification, and then if you desire to do the ICF as well. And so I think this is a good time to transition over into the application process and things that I can hopefully help with our time remaining. And so as we had mentioned at the top, the requirement and first step for the somatic coach program is embodied transformation. So for those of us that have had an opportunity to take embodied transformation, then the next step is to fill out an application, which is a question about why do you want to become a somatic coach? What is the kind of community that supports you? Those are the kind of questions that we're asking. And then setting up an interview with me. And what the interview does is I meet with you. It's about an hour long conversation. And what we do is we talk about your takeaways from embodied transformation. Where are you in your arc of transformation? Can you articulate in language and share with me sensations, feelings, longings, and share with me what it is that you imagine you will be doing with your somatic coaching way and your somatic coaching certification. And then an assessment is made on readiness for the program, and then an invitation is sent to enroll. So those are the steps. So really it's the first is embodied transformation, then the application, then the interview, and then enrollment. And so would like to share with you some brief deadlines by whens that are coming up here for those of you that are considering coming into the program. So embodied transformation, there is one other opportunity in Europe to step in, and that's going to be in Rome in September 5th through the 8th. There is another time to take the foundational coursework of embodied transformation, and that's going to be in Barcelona, and that's going to be November 7th through 10th. It's a very tight turnaround, and if that is your intention, please set up an appointment with me. And I do have some of my team on the call right now. If any of you could please put in my contact information into the chat while I'm speaking here, I'd really appreciate that. And so, yes, if you're interested in going into the Barcelona course, talk to me first and we can set out a plan. Otherwise, the big next step is going to be September 5th through the 8th. So also a couple of dates that I'd like to share with you that I think are really helpful is that August 14th is the early enrollment deadline. So if you would like to have $1,000 US dollars off of your tuition, your standard tuition, if you are able to apply and set up an appointment with me by August 14th, you would be able to partake in that discount. Contact me if you have questions about if you are planning on stepping into the September program, the September Rome course or the November course, and we can talk a little bit how we can accommodate you for that. In addition, the application for the program closes September 13th, and that is also the same date that we close the scholarship application. For any of you that are interested in stepping in as a scholarship applicant, please review the scholarship application information. And if any of my team could please put in the scholarship application information, a link to that would be really helpful along with the course calendar. And so those are the next steps. And if you have questions on how to make this work, with your timeline, please let me know. I can email, my team can email those questions, the answers to those questions, or we can set up a call. And I see a question here about the Hyde Park. Yes, it does. So for those of you that might be able to make it to a US embodied transformation for the foundation course, that would be fantastic. So yes, it's standardized delivery. So embodied transformation, whether you take it in the US or in Europe, will qualify you for the prerequisite for the somatic coaching program. So yes, if you're able to make it into this course in October in Hyde Park, New York, that would qualify you for that prerequisite for the somatic coaching program. Again, contact me about process, deadlines, and how we can support you with that. And let's see here. I think that is really pretty much everything that I wanted to say about the application process. I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie and to Pete about the PCC and the questions about somatic applications.
Yeah, I can speak to that, your question there, Brandon. So if you are new to coaching or you haven't, I'll take these off for reflection. If you're new to coaching, the recommendation is that when you start the program, that's when you start accruing your coaching hours. Part of this certification program is we'll be requiring 100 hours with practice clients. And so there will be a time between when you complete the program, our program, and you apply for your PCC. Now, our program has 2 levels of certification with the ICF. So the first level is the associate's level. And you can, if you're interested in getting your ICF accreditation, you can submit a video and be approved at the ACC level. That means you're coaching at that level with particular competencies demonstrated in your final video. And that's only 100 hours of coaching. So during our program, you will accrue those hours. Then as you accrue more coaching hours, you would submit that to the PCC, to the ICF and be able to get that higher level of certification. So if that's something you're interested, Brandon, or anyone else on the call, I recommend either having a call with Denise or she can have, we can schedule a call with me or one of the other teachers who have more of those details for you. Hope that's useful. And back to you, Denise.
Thank you. We are at time and want to make sure that I want to confirm and just again remind you all, I am your resource as the Director of Enrollment to please email me, set up a call with me. And because we're doing a time conversion, if there are times that don't work for your schedule, feel free to reach out for me and I can schedule up a personal time to support you. So please don't hesitate to make that request. And then with that, I would like to thank you all for your time and for your longings for the somatic coaching program with the Strozzi Institute. It has really been a pleasure to see you all here today and look forward to supporting your questions and longings as we move forward. And so thank you again from all of our team here at the Strozzi Institute, Stephanie Meux, Pete Hamill, and then also our crew behind the scenes. We have Daniel as a technical support, and then also from the enrollment team and the comms team, Randy Moore and Andrea Mang. We've all been here supporting you today. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I want to thank you all again for joining us here today. Again, Denise Maes, the Enrollment Director for Strozzi. It's been a pleasure and looking forward to supporting you in whatever however it meets us in any capacity that we can. So thank you again. Take care.